Okay, I think that's it for the deck review. And now we're going to go on to the last part of this, where I talk a little bit about how I think Back 4 Blood compares with Left 4 Dead 2, why you might like one or the other, strengths and weaknesses of both games, and how I think that there are certain people out there who don't really have a balanced perspective on what Back 4 Blood or Left 4 Dead 2 actually are as games. Let's go over by the boxing ring to talk about this. So the first thing that I want to say is that a lot of people, including marketing people for Warner Interactive, the publisher of this game, have claimed that this game is Left 4 Dead 3. I actually don't believe that. I think those people are wrong, and I think they're just trying to sell you on the game, but doing it in the wrong way. Instead of telling you what this game does right and what's good about this game, they're trying to prey on your nostalgia that you remember about Left 4 Dead 2. So let me set you straight right here. This game is not Left 4 Dead 3. It's definitely not Left 4 Dead 2 either. So if you come into this game looking for it to be Left 4 Dead 2, you're going to be disappointed. This game is its own thing. It's its own take on the zombie apocalypse, with its own lore, and its own ideas about how to do that kind of a video game. It's not a Left 4 Dead game, no matter what the marketing fuckfaces try to tell you. Don't expect it to be, you won't be disappointed. Now, I want to talk about a few things that I think this game does better than Left 4 Dead, and after that I'm going to talk about a few things that I think Left 4 Dead does better than this game. So I think Back 4 Blood has better graphics than Left 4 Dead 2. And that's not too much of a surprise. I mean, has it been 15 years since Left 4 Dead 2? Technology has moved on. GPUs are much more powerful now, so it's no surprise that something like this would be possible today when that kind of thing wasn't really possible 15 years ago. You know, technology has improved, computers are faster, GPUs are better. I mean, why would we be surprised that graphics would be better today? Even games engines have gotten a lot better.
Crates. Unopened. Gotta be some good stuff in there.
And I think you can just see that this game is just, overall, just a little bit prettier, and the graphics are just a little bit more detailed than Left 4 Dead 2. Now, of course, good graphics don't necessarily make a good game. There are some games that are absolutely beautiful, but the gameplay is garbage. But if we are comparing only on the basis of graphics, I would actually give it to Back 4 Blood as having slightly better graphics than Left 4 Dead 2. Another thing that I have to give credit to Back 4 Blood is the card system, the deck system. I know a lot of people were worried when this game first came out that the deck system was going to be horrible microtransaction garbage, and it was going to be terrible, and, you know, everyone was just going to hate it. Turns out, the deck system is actually quite good for giving you the ability to tweak your character and your playstyle to allow you to play the game that you want to play it. And it also makes multiple different kinds of playstyles viable. Like, there is a sort of bomb squad meta, where you just have a lot of bombs and pipe bombs and grenades and stuff like that. There's also a melee meta, where you just melee everything. There's also a sprinter meta, where all you do is you just sprint everywhere, and all the ridden just run after you and ignore your teammates. There's a lot of different metas that, you know, can be made to work, just because this game has a deck system that allows you to customize things. Another thing I think that Back 4 Blood does better than Left 4 Dead did was, first of all, just the sheer number and different kinds of weapons. I mean, let's face it, Left 4 Dead was never really super heavy on the number of guns that it had. So Back 4 Blood not only gives you a lot of guns, but it gives you a lot of accessories, magazines, stocks, scopes, barrels and barrel attachments, all sorts of cool stuff to customize all your cool guns. And this was actually a bit of a controversy early in the game's life because the attachments were not removable. Once you put an attachment on a gun, it was there forever. That has actually been fixed, and we'll talk more about that when I talk about how people have, in my opinion, unfairly criticized this game for problems that it doesn't have anymore, and frankly probably hasn't had since beta. Now, the last thing I want to say about this game that I think it does better than Left 4 Dead 2 is this game has more maps and it has more characters. And let me just show you the character selection screen. So here are all these characters that come with the game stock, and then if you have the Tunnels of Terror expansion, you get 2 more characters, Hang and Charisse. Now, it's worth saying, quantity does not always imply quality. Just because you have more of something doesn't necessarily mean that the things that you have are better. But in general, I do very much like the characters in this game. I think they're cool characters, I enjoy them, I think their voice lines are fun. I mean, Hoffman has a 3 Wolf Moon t-shirt. What more could you want for your silly memes? Now let's talk about some of the things that I think this game does worse than Left 4 Dead 2, or equivalently, ways that Left 4 Dead 2 is a better game than Back 4 Blood. The first one is mods. As far as we know, there never has been and never will be any kind of official mod support for Back 4 Blood. If you know about Left 4 Dead 2 mods, you know that Left 4 Dead 2 mods are just crazy. You can replace your friendly bots with a Velociraptor, Jill Valentine from Resident Evil, and Hatsune Miku the Vocaloid, and play through the game with those guys by your side. You could also turn the enemies into the Teletubbies and Barney the Dinosaur, and there are whole custom maps, whole custom campaigns worth of multiple maps for Left 4 Dead 2. We're probably never going to have that in Back 4 Blood, and so if mods are a deal breaker for you, Left 4 Dead 2 is probably a better game than Back 4 Blood for you. Another criticism you'll commonly hear of Back 4 Blood that I completely agree with is that the common ridden or common infected are really a lot more boring in Back 4 Blood, and I actually completely agree with that. You know, in Left 4 Dead 2, sometimes you'd be carefully picking your way down a dark hallway, you'd see an infected in front of you, the infected wouldn't see you, and then it would just puke all over the floor because, you know, it used to be a human being, and now it's got this nasty disease, and it's sick, and it's puking constantly. Or you'd just be walking down the street, and you'd see 2 common infected ahead of you, and they'd be beating each other to death because the disease took away their higher functions, and now they're just mindless animals who just beat each other up for no reason. You're not going to see that in Back 4 Blood. The common ridden, as they are called here, are pretty boring. They don't have a lot in the way of idle animation. Mostly they just stand there, and some of them just lie still on the ground until you get close enough, and then they get up and they try to punch you. That is a criticism of Back 4 Blood that I completely agree with. Now, you remember how I said that there are more characters and more maps in Back 4 Blood, but that quantity didn't necessarily imply better quality? I think that's actually a very important point, and I would actually invite you...
Don't be shy.
Sorry, Chandra. I think that's a very important point, and I would actually invite you to go to YouTube and look for Back 4 Blood speedruns, just so you can see for yourself how much faster it's possible to run through a Back 4 Blood map than it is to run through a Left 4 Dead map. I think the people who made the game probably realized that, and they increased the number of both common and mutated ridden, which would be called common infected and special infected in Left 4 Dead 2. And so you will be spending more time shooting in this game and less time running around, unless, of course, you have built a deck and you are playing a sprinter meta character, in which place, of course, you can just run right through things. Let's sit over here by the fire while I talk about what I think is the second most important criticism of this game: the price point. I'm going to make some Back 4 Blood fanboys angry by saying this, but Back 4 Blood is not a $60 game. Now, for symmetry, let me make the Left 4 Dead 2 fanboys angry by saying Left 4 Dead 2 was also not a $60 game. Both of these games are $35 to $40 games. Don't buy Back 4 Blood for $60. Wait for a Steam sale, get it for sale on goodoldgames.com like I did for $37. Do not pay $60 for this game. There is not $60 worth of content here. That said, if you can get the game for $30, I think you're probably going to say, yeah, actually, this is definitely a really good game for $30.
Want to come take a look at this?
No, thank you. I appreciate it, Phillips, but I'm kind of telling people stuff right now. The last thing that I really, really hate about this game, and this one makes me so mad, I think it is the game's biggest flaw, believe it or not.
I don't think so.
Even when you play an offline mode, there is no pause button in this game. This is so infuriating. Let me show you something. When you start up the game, this is the screen that you see. You press left mouse button to sign in. It explicitly gives you the choice of playing online, offline, or exiting to desktop. If you choose to play offline, you are playing by yourself with no one else. Tell me, why should I not be able to pause the game when I am playing offline by myself and nobody else is around? There's no reason. There's no reason at all. And yet that is exactly what Back 4 Blood does. I honestly, having thought about this a lot, I have a conspiracy theory for you. I think that in Warner Brothers Interactive, which is the publisher of the game, there is a dumb shit corporate executive who is so fucking stupid, he actually believes that no pause during offline play is an anti-piracy feature. Not kidding. I actually think there is someone who has such a shoe-size IQ that they think that no pause button during offline play is an anti-piracy feature, and I think that person is an executive at Warner Interactive. That is the only reason I can think of why there would not be a pause button during offline play. During online, I completely understand why there's no pause. You're playing online with other people, you don't get to pause their game. They're busy too. But when you're playing offline, you're playing by yourself only with bots? Why shouldn't I be able to pause the game? That's insane. And Warner Media Interactive, who are the publishers of this game, should feel bad about the fact that in offline play, there is no pause feature. Now, before I talk about other people's criticism of the game, I think I should probably give you some kind of basis to decide whether you think my experience with the game and with Left 4 Dead 2 is worth listening to. So let's jump back out to the desktop, and I can show you a couple things in Steam. Here is my Left 4 Dead 2 Steam page. You can probably see right here that I've played 492 hours of Left 4 Dead 2. This probably understates the case, because I've played a ton of Left 4 Dead 2 on my Xbox 360 as well. So probably it's more like 700 hours. But since I can't prove to you how many hours I played on my Xbox 360, at least I can prove to you that I've played 492 hours of Left 4 Dead 2. Incidentally, I've also played 225 hours of Left 4 Dead 1. And 103 hours of Back 4 Blood. So you can decide for yourself if you think that I have sufficient experience with all these games to make reasonable comparisons. The first thing I think is that there are some people, and this is not a very large group of people, but there is a small group of people who completely dismiss Back 4 Blood and say that it could not possibly be any good whatsoever. It's total crap, and you don't even need to decide for yourself whether or not it's a good game, because just trust me, it's total crap. I don't agree with those people, and in fact, I think they're probably speaking either from no experience with the game, or with experience from the beta version of the game before the game was fully released. A lot has changed from the October-November beta version of this game to the late December Christmas release of the game to now, which is late May, almost June. In fact, I think this is a good time to go over one of the most common and, in my opinion, most valid criticisms that was made against the game when it was first coming out and first released. Let's go over to the Angry Joe review of this game. I will put the URL to the full Angry Joe review down in the description so you can watch the whole thing for yourself. But I just want to show you this one part of it because I think that this criticism was so on point for the initial release version of the game.
Even some of the good parts that I mentioned at the beginning, those cool weapon attachments, well, guess what? Annoyingly, you can't swap attachment between guns. It's as if they're somehow fucking super glued to your weapons. What?
Damage.
That's why I want to change out the fucking attachments.
Yeah, being able to swap out attachments is like one of the most simplest things that they could have done.
Yeah, I hate. Oh, it's like, nope, you're stuck with that.
That's right, unless you want to straight replace one, which destroys your previous one for no fucking apparent reason, you could use that on one of your old weapons, or swap between them, or when you find a badass epic purple gun that's better than your current gun, it's actually not better because the attachments that you have on your shitty gun are better than the purple gun. It makes no sense that you can't fucking swap. Wow.
And so this criticism was entirely correct. It was entirely reasonable. Joe is right. The initial version of this game, as it was released in December 2021, you couldn't swap attachments around. But if you watch the earlier part of this video and you looked at my deck, you know that I have the Weaponsmith card in my deck. And that Weaponsmith card allows me to swap attachments off and on my guns as much as I want. I just have to pay 400 copper per gun that I want to swap attachments on and off of. So I think a lot of people who unfairly criticize this game and say, oh, this game is total crap, you don't even have to consider it because it's just 100% garbage, just trust me. I think those people are either have no experience with the actual game, or they only have experience with the game as it was in the beta phase or after the initial release. The version of the game that I'm playing that you'll be seeing the videos of gameplay for on this channel, that is the May to June patch, the Tunnels of Terror patch, which has a lot of issues fixed, patched, corrected, or just made irrelevant. So my guidance here is decide for yourself. Watch gameplay videos. You can watch mine, you can watch Swing Points, but don't let the people who claim that this game is just outright no good because they just say so make up your own mind. By the way, one last thing I want to say about the Tunnels of Terror patch or DLC. You do not have to buy the DLC in order to play the DLC levels or get those Skull Totem items. All you have to do is find someone who has the DLC and play with them. And you will automatically get Skull Totems. When you get Skull Totems, you will be able to go into the Tunnels of Terror, see the Tunnels of Terror, play the Tunnels of Terror. Those Skull Totems that you need are not difficult to get at all, and you do not need to buy the DLC to get those and get some of the better cards, like Admin Reload, like 2-is-1, like Weaponsmith. Okay? All right, that's it. That's everything that I have to say. If you've watched this whole video, thank you for sitting through my ranting. If you'd like to see some gameplay, go on to the next video in the playlist, which again, I'll link in the video description. And if you have anything to say to me about anything that I've said, if you are a fanboy who I offended by saying that neither Back 4 Blood nor Left 4 Dead 2 is a $60 game, hit me with a comment. In the meantime, I will simply say I hope you're having a good one, and I hope that you're staying salty, my friends.